Chapter 4 to 6. So, these Dragon Balls can grant any wish? Vegeta's voice sent a chill down Raditz's spine, his hunger for power showed itself through every word. Picture it, the immortal saiyans, rulers of the universe. Raditz forced himself to smile. It was an exciting prospect, but he still felt uneasy for some reason. Yes, we'd be unstoppable, an eternity of combat. Vegeta chuckled. Ah, Raditz, what's this, we? You honestly think you deserve immortality? What? You were beaten by a creature with a power under 2000, and you had to rely on your laughably weak brother and one of that planet's pathetic inhabitants to survive. His voice grew angry. You dishonor the Saiyan race. When we arrive on that planet, you and Kakarot will die along with your fellow insects, and then I will reign supreme over all of creation. Enjoy your last year, you utter failure. The connection was cut off. Raditz sunk to his knees, despair filling his mind. How could he betray a fellow Saiyan? He pounded the ground, leaving a crater several feet wide. I won the battle, damn it. I've got to get off this planet. He stood up, only to discover his strength was finally running out, and he collapsed. Goku, standing next to him, caught him before he hit the ground, propping Raditz on his shoulder. Hey, Raditz. What's the matter? You sounded upset. Kakarot, we have to leave this planet immediately. Raditz looked up at his brother. The other two Saiyans, they're going to come here, it'll take them about a year, and they're going to kill every living thing on this planet, then use your dragon things to wish themselves immortal. They'll kill us, too. Don't they have any loyalty or honor? Apparently. Raditz coughed, a trickle of blood running down his chin from his mouth. Not. Well, whatever we're going to do, you need medical attention. I'll just get Tien's body and, Goku looked around, but couldn't see the body. I can't see it anywhere, and it was right over there. Maybe, someone made it vanish. Kami, or someone like that, he shook his head. I'll worry about that later. Bracing himself to fully support Raditz's weight, Goku took off into the air. Nimbus. And that's the whole story, Goku was saying. He was sitting on one of the couches inside Kame House, with his 4-year-old son Gohan on his lap. Sitting opposite him were Bulma, Krillin, Master Roshi, Launch, and Kaiatsu, who he had met up with on the way back. Raditz was unconscious next to Goku, and Launch, currently in her shy, blue-haired personality, had thoughtfully placed a towel under him to stop him bleeding onto the couch. I can't believe Tien's dead. Kaiatsu sobbed, shoulders shaking uncontrollably. Don't worry, little guy, Goku replied. We'll bring him back. But it'll take a while to gather the Dragon Balls. Right now we have to try and think what we're going to about these other two Saiyans. Krillin snapped his fingers. Maybe we could ask Piccolo to help us. Everyone looked at him in confusion. Come on, think about it. If he's as powerful as you say, he might be our best bet at beating the Saiyans. And why wouldn't he? If Earth is destroyed, he won't get to rule it, right? So it's in everyone's best interests to fight them. Roshi nodded. You might be right. He was interrupted by the hum of an engine outside. A few seconds later, the door opened and a short, somewhat round man carrying a katana walked in. Yajirobe? Bulma asked. Hey, long time, no see, so what are you doing here? Hey, nice to see you and all that stuff, but Korin said Kami wants to see you, Krillin, and he said to bring that Yamcha guy with you. Yajirobe pointed at Krillin, looking slightly bored. Why? Krillin started to ask. Oh yeah, Yajirobe continued, ignoring him, and I got a message from Tien. He says he's gonna go get special training in the afterlife, or, something, so don't wish him back until the year's up. Oh, and he said he doesn't want Kaiatsu to fight the Saiyans. What? Kaiatsu stood up. Why not? Something about, really powerful, doesn't want you to die, you've already been brought back once so it won't work again, that kind of thing. Yajirobe turned to leave, heading out the door and hopping back into his air car. Well, see ya, I got something nice in the oven. Wait. Goku stood up, running out the door. Yajirobe, have you got a spare senzu bean? Yajirobe rummaged through his pockets. I didn't bring any specially for the occasion, but I usually have one or two around somewhere, aha. He produced a small, gray-colored bean, tossing it to Goku. Is that all I'm good for these days? Delivering messages and census? Grumbling to himself, he drove off into the distance. Goku walked back inside, then crouched next to Raditz, placing the bean in his mouth. He pressed 2 fingers to his brother's throat, making him swallow, and after a couple of seconds Raditz's eyes opened. Wah! He sat up, looking down at his uninjured body. I'm healed. The humans in the room shrank back a little as he moved, especially those who could sense his enormous ki. Yup. Goku grinned. It's a senzu bean. Eat it, and all your wounds are healed. Neat, huh? Raditz stood up. I appreciate your assistance, but I'm going to get to my ship and leave this planet. I'd advise you to come with me, unless you have a death wish. He retrieved a remote control from inside his armor. While this was happening, Launch felt a tickling sensation in her nose. Oh, here we go, she thought. Ah. I'll just remotely activate it, and fly it here. Can't find the damn button, I always get them mixed up. Raditz muttered, not hearing the sharp intake of breath. Ah. Ah, there, right next to the emergency brake, and the self-destruct on the other side. His finger hovered over the button. Chew. Launch's sneeze, a sneeze of truly epic proportions, caused Raditz to flinch slightly, making his finger's trajectory skew slightly to the left as it pressed a button. His eyes widened in shock. No, it. He glared at Launch, who had transformed into her blonde, aggressive personality. You imbecile. Do you even know what you've done? Raditz yelled at her. You've made me activate the self-destruct on my ship. Now I can't get off this planet, unless your primitive little species has somehow developed interstellar travel, which I doubt. Oh, I'm so sorry. Launch shouted back, producing a machine gun as if from nowhere. The big tough alien warrior can't handle a little sneeze, and now it's my fault. Go to hell. She opened fire, and Raditz batted the bullets aside with a sweep of his hand as the other humans cowered behind the couch. Go ahead. Make me even angrier. That'll work out well for you. Raditz raised a fist, then noticed Goku staring at him. He struggled with himself, finally lowering his hand. You're not worth the effort, he growled, but if Kakarot wasn't here, I'd at least make some kind of example. Do not cross me, woman. Humph. Launch crossed her arms. I'm not scared of you. She stormed off. Hee hee, sorry about that. Goku pulled Raditz aside. But, I think we need to get back to the matter at hand. If your ship's broken, you think you could use mine? He asked, scratching his head. The one we sent you in? Raditz shook his head. No, you'd have stayed inside it until the first full moon, then destroyed it when you first transformed. He didn't, of course, know that Goku's adoptive grandfather, Gohan, had found him before this happened and Goku had been too small to remember clearly. Full moon? Transformed? Goku blinked. Did I miss something? Oh, come on, you can't have forgotten that. Raditz glared at him. You must know that the Saiyan's full power only shows itself at the full moon. Wait, your tail. What happened to it? It got cut off a long time ago, so people couldn't grab it. Goku looked thoughtful. But, this does sound a little familiar, describe to me exactly what happens. Raditz sighed. Fine. If you must know, when a Saiyan looks at a full moon, I won't go into the science of it, they transform into a giant primate-like creature. A giant monster? Yes. Is there a problem with that? Raditz snapped. Goku felt cold, empty, all of a sudden. Then, that's why my grandpa told me never to look at the full moon, and the monster that crushed him to death, it was me. He fell silent, his face drained of all emotion. Kakarot? Raditz asked tentatively. His brother was completely unresponsive. Are you? No, it's okay. Goku sniffed a little, blinking several times and managing to keep his eyes from filling with tears. I'm okay. I just needed a few seconds, like I said, we've got bigger things to worry about. So, we've established you can't get off the planet. So, either you can wait here for these other Saiyans to come along and kill you, or you can spend the year we have preparing to fight them. There are plenty of strong fighters on this world, when they get here, we'll be ready. The only question is, will you help us? He held out his hand. With only a moment's hesitation, Raditz shook it. It doesn't look like I have any choice, does it? As a true warrior, I can't go down without a fight. All right then. A huge smile filled Goku's face. He picked Gohan up from the floor, where the boy had been wandering. I'll go drop the kid off at home, then I'll head to Kami's. Krillin, Pick up Yamcha and meet us there. It's above Korin Tower, okay? Got it. Krillin jumped up, stretching. It's been a while since I've had a real fight. Goku headed for the door, but before leaving Raditz took off his scouter and placed it on the table in the center of the room. Huh? Why were you leaving that? Bulma asked. Because I've seen it's possible to sense power levels without one, and I'm going to learn how. It seems a lot more convenient than having to rely on a piece of technology. I figured you'd have more use for it than I would. He went to follow Goku. And stop staring at me, he snapped at Launch, who'd emerged from the other room as her shy persona. Nimbus, the younger saiyan called, jumping on as it arrived. Raditz, leaving the house, floated up next to him. Peculiar, that cloud of yours. Can't you fly under your own power? He asked. Oh, sure, Goku shrugged, but the Nimbus cloud is faster. Shall we go? Lead the way, Raditz said with a hint of sarcasm, and the Saiyan soared off into the horizon. Goku and Raditz continued their flight towards Goku's home on Mount Paozu. Goku's son Gohan, being carried along in his father's arms, finally found the courage to speak, having listened in silence for most of the day. Daddy, is he my uncle? The boy asked. You said he was your brother. Huh? Goku looked down as his son. I guess so. Yeah. Say hi to Uncle Raditz. Gohan gave a nervous smile, and waved. Hi, Uncle Raditz. Humph. Raditz scowled and turned away. By his age, a Saiyan child would have already been sent to conquer some remote planet. You really know how to kill the mood, don't you? Goku muttered, patting Gohan on the head. It's okay, Gohan, Raditz is in a bad mood, cause he got beaten up by Piccolo. Raditz wanted to retort, something along the lines of, for the last time, I beat that green freak. But something else was pressing on his mind. Kakarot, you offered to let me use your ship, when we were talking back in the island house. Yeah, so. It sounded like you weren't going to leave, just let me go and leave you here. Why would you stay behind and face the invaders, but let me escape? Because this is my home now. Goku looked at Raditz, his face open and sincere. I couldn't just abandon my friends and family, let alone leave the entire human race to get wiped out. What has it come to, when an amnesiac, tailless, low-class renegade has more honor than the prince of our race? Raditz grumbled, ending the conversation. The minutes crawled by in silence. The mountains loomed in the distance. So, you gonna keep calling me Kakarot or what? Well, I'm just glad you had the sense to keep my Gohan out of all that fighting, Chi-Chi said, holding her son close to her, but it's just all so hard to believe. I mean, you're from outer space. Are you sure? Look, I wouldn't lie about something like this, Raditz growled, and as you may be able to tell from the state of my armor, I haven't exactly had an easy time today, so I don't feel particularly inclined to argue about it with you. Now, we're going to go meet with this world's fighters at the headquarters of some kind of guardian. Yeah, Kami, Goku interjected. Remember him from the world tournament, Chi-Chi? He's the good side of Piccolo. He waved. I'll be back for dinner. He jumped onto the waiting Nimbus cloud, and Raditz followed him into the sky. Stay safe, Chi-Chi whispered, suddenly feeling anxious about her husband's safety. Gohan, standing by her feet, waved. Bye-bye, Uncle Raditz, he called. Chi-Chi frowned. That alien brother of Goku's had better stay away from her little boy, or there'd be trouble. As they made their way towards Kami's lookout, a thought struck Goku. Hey, Raditz, you gonna get your armor fixed up? I will at some point, his brother replied, but first we need to meet with this planet's warriors and determine a plan of action. What's there to plan? Goku asked, going faster now he didn't have to worry about Gohan. We spend this year training in preparation, and when they get here we fight them. Simple. True, but we still need to know who we have, any advantages we can get in terms of the battle's location, and what training facilities this world has. I guess so. Plus, we can make sure everyone's clear on exactly what's going on. It didn't take them long to reach the lookout, to find Yajirobe, Krillin and Yamcha waiting for them. Shortly, Kami walked out to meet them. I have been watching recent events, he said, and it pains me to know that such a terrible evil will so soon be descending on the earth. Are you all aware on the situation? Yamcha nodded. Yeah, Krillin told me on the way here. So, this is Goku's brother. Why does everyone ask that? Raditz snapped. Do I not look like him or something? Hey, no offense. Yamcha flinched back involuntarily at Raditz's glare. Krillin spoke up. Well, what would be helpful right now is if Raditz told us more about these two other saiyans. We could really use information on what we're up against. Alright. Raditz stepped forward, standing in front of the others. I'm afraid it's all bad news. Both of the other Saiyans' strength greatly exceeds my own, or even that of the demon I fought today. Piccolo, was it? That is troubling. Kami muttered. In 1 year, we will face twice your strength, and more. Raditz frowned. I don't think I've made the extent of their superiority quite clear yet. One of them, a large brute called Nappa, is, on his own, greater than double my power. Whoa, so, he's the one to watch out for, huh? Goku asked, trying to picture fighting an opponent more than twice as strong as Raditz, half nervous, half excited. I'm afraid not. You see, the other, Vegeta, the prince of all Saiyans, his power is greater than 10 times my own. What? Krillin started trembling. No way. We're doomed. Yajirobe began to sneak away, feeling that this battle was not for him, but Yamcha caught him by the back of his shirt and held him in place. Hey! Let go of me, the samurai whined. Not a chance. Yamcha held firm. You're not getting away that easy, you little coward. Well, the odds are certainly not in our favor. Kami said, leaning heavily on his staff. However, I will do what I can. Krillin, Yamcha, Yajirobe, I offer my training to you. I have nothing left to teach Goku, and I doubt Raditz needs any instruction from one such as I. Indeed. Raditz turned to Goku. I suggest we train together. There are certain aspects of Saiyan physiology which you might not be familiar with, which may aid you in increasing your power. He drove all thoughts of fear from his mind. There was only the coming battle. Sounds good. Let's start straight away tomorrow. You want to stay at my house for the night? No, thank you, Raditz shook his head. I think you should wait and explain the situation to your family today. My presence could aggravate the situation. In any case, that island house we were at earlier, being home to multiple people, would probably have a greater range of clothing I could choose from until my armor is fixed. This logic didn't quite seem to be enough reason for Raditz to choose to stay with a group of complete strangers, but Goku wasn't the questioning type, so he let it go. Okay. Goku shrugged. I'm sure they won't mind. Raditz floated a couple of feet into the air. And Kakarot, meet me tomorrow in the wasteland near where you live. And fly there under your own power. Huh. But the Nimbus is faster, I told you, and flying tires me out. That's the point. You need to become self-reliant. For the same reason, I'm not going to use my scouter, and I aim to learn to sense energy without it. He flew off, vanishing within seconds. Goku turned to Kami. You might want to use your telepathy and get in touch with Kame House, so Raditz doesn't take them entirely by surprise. That would be wise, Kami replied. I shall also contact Piccolo, as I believe has already been said, even he surely would not wish the Earth to be destroyed, and his assistance would be extremely valuable. Yeah, good idea. Goku ran to the edge of the lookout and jumped off, catching himself in midair and flying away towards his home. He flew as long as he could without the Nimbus, until finally running out of energy and calling it. The two Saiyans met at sunrise in the wasteland, the mountains to their left. Raditz was wearing a spare turtle school martial arts uniform, and kept grumbling about how undignified he looked. So, how was Kame House? Goku asked. Raditz scowled, which was fast becoming his signature facial expression. Try and imagine a galactic warrior, conqueror of planets, sitting around the table and eating dinner with a couple of Earthlings. Then double the awkwardness. That bad, huh? Goku gave an innocent grin, as if this was somehow his fault. Sorry about that, then. The old man would tremble every time I walked near him, I'm fairly sure he could sense my energy. He put a hand on his forehead, as if even the memory irritated him. And as for the girl with two personalities, the blonde one kept trying to pick a fight with me, and it took all my willpower not to just tear her head off. The shy one I can't figure out at all. Humans are such strange creatures. It's impossible to tell what they're thinking so much of the time. Yeah, I always thought that too. Goku thought back to his past. I guess that explains why people always thought I was simple, it was just that I'm a Saiyan. No, you're a Saiyan and a simpleton. Raditz crossed his arms. So, shall we commence our training? Goku nodded, stretching his muscles and mentally preparing himself. Let's do this. Training with Raditz was intense beyond belief. All his life, Goku had pushed himself, and been pushed by others, to overcome his limitations and climb to new levels of strength. But this was entirely new. Raditz, unlike most of Goku's allies, was less of a martial artist and more of a soldier. His sink-or-swim attitude meant that if a session left Goku incapacitated, Raditz would carry on training without him, telling him to come back when he'd reattached all his bones. A lot of the brutality came from the fact that Raditz knew, and took advantage of, the saiyan ability to come back stronger after injury. This trait was used heavily. They'd take a bag of senzu beans, spar until they were half dead, then eat a bean to heal themselves and start over. After a couple of weeks, Goku started bringing Gohan along to watch. He'd been asking where his daddy and uncle were all day, and Chi-Chi agreed to let him go and see, as long as he took his ever-present study books with him. Goku collapsed next to his son after a hard day's training. "How you doing, kid?" he asked, ruffling the boy's hair. He'd noticed Gohan staring wide-eyed at the two Saiyans as they fought at incredible speed, their blows echoing throughout the valley. "Daddy, will I be big and strong like you when I grow up?" Gohan asked. "If you work hard and practice often, sure," Goku replied, smiling a little, "but remember, your mom doesn't want you to be a fighter." He shrugged. "She doesn't want you getting hurt, and I can't blame her, it is dangerous. It's not fair." Gohan pouted. "Why can't I be smart and strong at the same time?" He looked up questioningly. "Then you and Mommy'll both be happy, right?" Goku laughed. "Well, that's harder than you might think. Anyway, I should get back to it. Raditz is looking impatient." He jumped up, and headed over to his brother. "Great kid," he said. "He wants to fight too, but his mom won't let him." "A waste," Raditz observed, watching Gohan. "His Saiyan heritage could make a fine warrior of him, and we need every advantage we can get." "Out of the question." Goku folded his arms, standing firm. "I'm sure he could grow up to be a great fighter, but he's a 4-year-old child. There's no way he's getting into a life-or-death battle. At least train him a little." Raditz shrugged. "Who knows what battles he might have to face as an adult, and besides, when the other Saiyans arrive, the whole world will be at stake. If we lose, he definitely dies. You don't want that for your son, I assume?" He raised an eyebrow. Goku sighed. "Fine. I'll give him some training. But he's not fighting unless he absolutely has to, you understand?" Raditz nodded. "Good," Goku continued. "And we have to be sure not to let Chi-Chi know. He's such a smart kid, he always finishes his homework long before we get home, so, each day, we'll start training him once he's done with it. Then everything will seem normal to Chi-Chi. You worry about that." Raditz picked up a stone from the ground. "I need to test something." He hurled it at Gohan with a flick of his wrist. "Raditz, what are you?" Goku made to intercept it, but Raditz held him back. "Watch," his brother told him. The stone flew in a slight arc straight at Gohan's head. At the last second, he noticed it, and his eyes narrowed. There was a flash of light, and the stone disintegrated. "I knew it." Raditz grinned. "The child has great power. All we have to do is teach him how to use it." Goku nodded. Gohan's power was almost as high as Raditz when he'd first arrived on Earth. Maybe this was going to be easier than he'd thought. About 6 months into their training, Bulma drove over to Kame House, having finished Raditz's new armor. The old armor, she said, had been too broken to fix entirely, so she just incorporated the pieces and the protective technology into this one. He took it with muttered, somewhat forced thanks. It consisted of black leggings and vest, an armored top, and his old boots and gauntlets. Bulma had dispensed with the shoulder and leg plates, declaring them too unwieldy, plus, just about every battle simulation she ran ended with them broken. Now she'd made one suit, she could mass-produce them, so Raditz wore them for training, and once he'd busted up one suit just picked up another. Needless to say, Bulma constantly berated him for his carelessness, but she was basically a good person and never refused to make any more. For his own part, Raditz knew if he snapped the Earth Woman in two for her constant whining, he wouldn't get any new armor, so he managed to restrain his anger for the time being. As time went on, Goku's flight improved to the point where he let Gohan use the Nimbus, and Raditz's ki sense developed until it was almost as good as any human fighter's. Gohan, training in one of Goku's old turtle school uniforms, from when he'd been a child himself, had come on in leaps and bounds, enjoying being able to join in his father's favorite pastime. He was even starting to rub off on Raditz, who now wouldn't snap at him every time he said anything, only, say, half the time. The child's latent power had surprised both the adults, even for a saiyan child. It seemed a saiyan-human crossbreed was a particularly powerful hybrid. They had been about to remove the boy's tail to prevent him from transforming, but received a telepathic message from Cammy, who wearily informed them that Piccolo had dealt with the situation as soon as Cammy had told him of the saiyan transformation. They were somewhat taken aback next nightfall to discover that their planet no longer had a moon. Again. Piccolo, meanwhile, had agreed to hold off on his efforts to conquer the world until the invading Saiyans were defeated. In his conversations with Cammy, he hinted at a new technique he was developing, though he was a little vague on the details. The preparation for the Saiyans' arrival continued all around the world. Krillin and Yamcha, having completed Cammy's training, separated, Yamcha heading out into the wild, and Krillin returning to Kame House, both to continue their training. At Capsule Corp, Bulma was replicating Raditz's scouter, so that the humans unable to sense energy would be able to follow the battle in some way. Finally, the year was almost up. The 7 Dragon Balls were gathered at Kame House, and Shinran summoned forth. No matter how many times they saw the sky darken, and the burst of light shine into the heavens, it never quite got old. "Speak your wish," the dragon rumbled. "So this is the dragon?" Raditz whispered, in awe. "To think I'd written this planet off as a backwater mudball when I arrived, but it just keeps on surprising me." He stood with Rashi, Krillin and the shy Launch, all gazing up at the hovering dragon. "Hey, I don't want to sound rude, but you're not gonna try and intercept the wish, are you?" Krillin asked. "What?" Raditz realized what he was talking about. "Oh, you mean to wish for immortality like Vegeta wants to?" He shook his head. "I thought about it for a while. Nothing lasts forever. If you were immortal, eventually everyone else would die." He frowned. "You'd be alone, in an empty universe, forever. Count me out of that one. Besides," he gave a little smile at the thought, "I have no particular desire to fight Kakarot over it. He's grown in skill and power far faster than I'd have imagined." With no further discussion, Rashi stepped forwards. "Mighty Shinran." "Hold on," Krillin put a hand on the old master's shoulder. "Why don't we use the wish to destroy the Saiyans, and bring Tien back next year?" "That wish is impossible," Shinran boomed. "The wishes I grant cannot exceed the power of my creator, Cammy. The Saiyans are too powerful for me to destroy." "All right then." Rashi nodded. "Good idea, Krillin, shame it didn't work." "Shinran. Please restore Tien Shinhan to life." There was a pause as Shenron's eyes glowed bright red. "Your wish has been granted." In a brilliant flash of yellow light, Shinran was gone, and the Dragon Balls soared into the air, scattering across the world. Of course, if he's still got his body in the afterlife, he's got to physically travel back here. Rashi shrugged. "He might not actually get here for a while." "We're putting a lot of faith into that human," Raditz said. "Whatever training he's gone through in the afterlife, it had better have paid off." "Don't worry." Launch smiled at Raditz. "I'm sure Tien will come through for us." "Faith is a wonderful thing," Raditz muttered, heading back inside. "It must be nice not to know how bad the odds are." The next morning, at 11:43 a.m., 2 Saiyan attack pods collided with the Earth. Raditz looked up from his meal, his eyes widening. "They're here," he said to the others. "They'll head for the highest power level on this planet, and unless I'm mistaken, that would be me." "Launch! Get the old man out of here. This island is about to become a battleground." He pulled on his armor, stretching his muscles. "So she gets a name, but I'm the old man." Rashi grumbled. "Get moving, old-timer." The blonde Launch shoved him out the door. She glanced back at Raditz. "You better win." She followed Rashi outside, and they sped away in their hovercar. Raditz and Krillin stepped outside, waiting for the Saiyans. "Better bring your A-game today, Baldy, eh?" He paused. "Your key sense may be better than mine. Did you feel that?" Krillin nodded. "Why yeah." He was trembling. "They just wiped out thousands of people in an instant, a city, I guess, and I don't think it took them any effort." "Hold on, you were right. They're heading this way." Something caught his attention. "Hey, what's..." Goku appeared from behind them, landing next to Raditz. He hadn't bothered with his weighted training clothes. This wasn't the time to play around. "You ready for this?" he asked, warming up. He noticed Raditz was wearing his arm and leg bands today. "Hey, Raditz, those red bands, you haven't worn them since you fought Piccolo." Raditz nodded. It is a saiyan tradition. When a comrade dies in battle alongside you, someone very close to you, you soak a white cloth with their blood and wear it into battle in remembrance. Do you mind me asking, who were they? This one, Raditz pointed to his leg band, is in memory of a brave ally of mine. She died on the last mission I was on before planet Vegeta was destroyed, and had that not happened then there would have been 5 Saiyans left in the galaxy today. And, he thought, it would have meant not all the remaining Saiyans were male, their race might not have been doomed to extinction. Something which didn't seem to have stopped Kakarot. I'm sorry. So am I. And this one on my arm. He paused. It is in memory of our father, Bardock, a great warrior. He died with our planet, but his blood runs in my veins, so I colored this with my own to honor him. Oh. Goku looked thoughtful, he'd never really thought much about his saiyan father. Let's hope you don't have to add any more today. He realized he didn't know much about the saiyan race in general, he'd have to ask Raditz after the battle. No more time for talk. Raditz pointed at 2 rapidly growing specks in the sky. Here they come.
Se você quiser me apoiar, confira meu Patreon em https://www.patreon.com/kaioshin. Costumo fazer pesquisas que decidem coisas importantes sobre o enredo em meu @treon. Muito obrigado aos meus patronos incríveis. Ben Phillips, Yomi Tancho, Yuki, Surge 1301.
If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. I'll be here until next time.